or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. Now, sorry, don't cut it when it's every other time. Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
And I'm Jamie.
Welcome to One More for the Good Guys podcast, where we talk about the good things and the, what do we talk about? The good life and the good things and the good folks who make it that way. I think that's pretty close. At any rate, we want to say a special thank you to everyone for all the social media help as far as liking, subscribing, and following and all that stuff. We watch our channel grow. And all those sites grow every day, and that's all especially a special thanks to all of you out there. And today we have a really special guest, a longtime friend, and a good guy himself, journalist, writer, author, music critic, just an all-around good guy, and he's our friend and soon to be yours, Mr. Lee Zimmerman. How are you, Lee?
Hey, man, it's great to be here. I love being on a show with good guys, feeling like I'm an honorary good guy.
Totally, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, that's important. Yeah.
How's the new year treated you?
Well, so far, so good. I was really excited recently to be interviewed for the Library of Congress. You know, I mean,
you heard all about that, yeah.
Well, it was very special. I mean, to be honest, as I was saying before we started the show, I'm not a technical guy. So I had gotten a message on Facebook from this fella with the Library of Congress, and I couldn't get on there to answer him. I could see it, but I couldn't answer him. So a few weeks went by, and finally, miracle of miracles, something snapped in my brain, and I figured out how to get on Facebook. And so I messaged him back and I said, gosh, this is great. Is it too late? And fortunately it wasn't. And, you know, we set up a Zoom call, and it was really a big honor. I got to say, it's a big honor.
Well,
a really big.
I seen you at Wayne Stock, and we talked just very briefly about it, and was excited that we were going to be able to talk to you today about it and all. But, you know, I imagine so. I mean, it's a heck of an honor. I don't imagine that comes around very often for folks.
And well, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, look, if you write a book and it's copyrighted, it's in the Library of Congress. Right. First of all, I thought it was really special, the book, but no. But there's maybe 15 people a year that are actually interviewed on their website.
Right.
And so that was the honor, and it's really cool. It was really kind of cool.
Is that interview out now, or will soon be coming out?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's out now. It's
okay.
It's on the Library of Congress website. Yeah, I can send you guys a link if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that, and then when we publish this, we'll include it in the description and everything, where folks can go there and see the interview firsthand.
Oh, great.
And your book was about Americana, Appalachian music?
Well, it's about Americana.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
To be honest with you, I've been writing about people and interviewing artists for a very long time.
Right.
So I kind of took a shortcut. I kind of just compiled all those interviews, wrote an introduction, wrote some, chapter headings, but basically took what I had and strung them together. Because there's some, really interesting folks in there. So it worked pretty well. But my overall objective was to try to define this thing called Americana, because everybody bandies about the word Americana. But what is Americana? Right. I mean, in my way of thinking, it's a pretty big umbrella. It's, it's roots music, it's rock, it's country, it's R&B. I mean, it's blues. It's a very big umbrella. So my ultimate goal, by interviewing these people, putting these interviews together, was to try to come up with some precise description of what Americana is. I don't think I accomplished that, Mike, but I think that by getting the thoughts of these different artists, maybe the reader can come to some sort of conclusion. Right. I mean, I start early on. I mean, the first interview in the book is Dr. Ralph Stanley. Yeah. So, that was the beginning, and it goes up until through modern times here.
Yeah. I mean, golly, what a way to open it up with somebody that's with Ralph. I mean, started out so early in his career, and it always how's the right way to say this? It always impressed upon me, like people like Ralph Stanley, and we'll just stay in the bluegrass circuit for just a moment, but people like Ralph and people like Bill Monroe and Jimmy Martin and all these people that came from a holler or a mountainside somewhere where they can't even pump in sunlight, for a lack of a better descriptor. But at that time, and I've said this for years, the world is a lot smaller than it used to be. And back then, and I always got a look every time I would say something like that, well, man, this dumb hayseed, what's he talking about? The world hadn't got. But you think about how they were able to get from McClure, Virginia, or Rosine, Kentucky, or Sneedville, Tennessee, and actually become not only at the time pop stars, country music stars, pop culture, and now as their legend and as their music and everything has gotten older, they're those guys. That we talk about, that we study, that we listen to, that we find things that our ideas and different things like that. So it always fascinated me that folks from that era, when the trip from Knoxville to Cincinnati was 8 hours on Highway 25, and there was no interstates, there was no Zoom calls, there was no podcasts, there was no Amazon, there was no Google. So that's a heck of a way to start it out. When did you at what time? When did you meet Ralph or interview him?
Well, it was a phone conversation, and I guess it was about a year before he passed away. And I don't even remember the circumstances of how it came about. But I will say the guy was so gracious and so humble. Mm-hmm. I mean, you felt like you were talking to your uncle or something like that. He was just a wonderful individual. And to be able to look back on that now, I feel it was such an honor. I mean, there are other people in the book too, like the late great Guy Clark, who sadly left us way too soon. But having had the opportunity to speak to folks like that, David Crosby's another one. To have the opportunity to speak to these legends, really is amazing to me. I really feel honored that I had that opportunity. to do it,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you're originally from Florida, is that correct?
Well,
or you grew up there?
Actually, well, there were several places that I lived in before getting to Florida.
Okay.
Florida was just the last one before I got here. When I was 6 years old, we moved to Texas, Dallas, Texas. And I kind of grew up and I was raised in Dallas, which ironically instilled my love for Tennessee because, the T for Texas, T for Tennessee, and the connection, the Alamo, the War of Independence being a sacred scenario. And knowing that these volunteers came from the great state of Tennessee, to fight for the freedom down there. And ironically, now to be back here in East Tennessee, that circle is somewhat complete. Sam Houston Schoolhouse is just up the road, and but in between, after we lived in Dallas for a while, we moved to the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas Virgin Islands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was an odd. That was an odd trip.
Took your family there? Were you military?
Business.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, my parents were offered an opportunity to open a gift store, and the retail, the tourist business is really big down there. So, in a sense, I came of age a second time, having been raised in Dallas and immersed in the Texas culture, and then to move to the Virgin Islands, which was, as you can imagine,
as different as night and day. Yeah.
Yeah, it was culturally just absolutely night and day. But I have to say, and this will sound strange, but East Tennessee to me reminds me of St. Thomas.
Really?
And you might say
it does. I've been there twice. I agree with that.
Well, it has the same topography. It has the mountains. It has the same vibe. People are very cool here. And there's, the breweries, the bars, the taverns. St. Thomas had a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
got a little bitty Pigeon Forge right downtown St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Where the cruise ships come in. That's where all the.
Yeah. There's the Titanic, which we had cruise ships that docked in St. Thomas, but fortunately, none of them sank before they got there, I don't think. Yeah. But those two places really sort of shaped me. And then, I spent time in Florida. I worked for a television station. In fact, Don Dare, who's on TV here, also worked down in South Florida. I knew Don back in the day. So there were a lot of connections, but living here now is nothing like living in Florida, fortunately. If you have Florida listeners, I'm sorry. Don't mean to offend, but much better here.
We've actually got some international listeners as well.
Wow. Very cool.
I don't know why they want to tune in to hear two Harry hillbillies talk about good things, but that's
these people are very revered in Japan.
Yeah,
so maybe they think
true.
We're former sumo wrestlers or something.
Maybe that's true. I found a lot of similarities in island life as well. Some of the islands that I've been fortunate enough to visit with, Hawaii being one of them, with the topography and the. It's kind of like I did one major difference though is like island time is a true thing and it is its own thing. If we said we were going to do this podcast on, we would have said Thursday sharp. There wouldn't have been a time strapped onto that, but it would have been like Thursday sharp.
Yeah, that is fine.
Yeah,
that's very professional and very timely. I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. Well, we appreciate that. So your first, so you went to you went to you finished high school in Florida and then went to college.
Actually, I finished high school in St. Thomas.
Okay.
It was a private school, one of four. Well, our school went from kindergarten through the last year of high school.
Okay. K through 12.
And so there were 12 people in my graduating class. And they recruited me to play football. I'm not but whatever. But it was pretty cool because back in those days, even as a kid, I got to meet some pretty cool people. I remember, this is going to age me considerably. Maybe you can, Jamie, maybe you can edit this part out when we talk about age. Okay. But I remember walking along the waterfront and seeing Janis Joplin sitting by herself in a bar overlooking the harbor. The club that we went to, I don't know if you remember the band Spirit.
I remember the name, yeah.
Okay, well, again, aging myself, but two of the guys from Spirit were there hanging out. And most significantly to me, you remember a band called the Lovin' Spoonful?
Yeah.
Please say you do.
Yes,
please,
for sure.
Absolutely,
okay. So the bass player from the Lovin' Spoonful, Steve Boone, came down there on his boat. The band had been through a big drug bust at the time, or right before then, and he came down to kind of escape. And Steve Boone of the Lovin' Spoonful, who co-wrote the classic song "Summer in the City," became part of our little gang. He was older than the rest of us, but he was kind of our, cheerleader, our head guy. And I know Steve to this very day. I know him to this very day. So it was the start of, sort of the rock and roll journey and being up close and personal. There's a band, there's a club appropriately named the St. Thomas Club. And the house band there was a band that later became the group Orleans. They did that song Dancing in the Moonlight, which you hear on commercials nowadays. They had a lot of hits. Anyway, that band was the house band.
Oh, wow.
They were called Longo. So again, it was kind of a place where people gravitated to, and it was an adventure, and I really, it was really formative.
Now, were you up on the music as far as just from pop, from the top 40s or whatever, or did you grow up? Was your house a musical house?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I mean, like everybody, I got into the Beatles early on. Again, aging myself here. Jamie, I'm counting on you. Edit.
Hey, I got it, man.
All right. But I remember this was when I lived in Dallas, and the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan for the first time. And my parents said, "Come here, you got to see these guys." I don't care. And I blew it off. By the second time they were on the following Sunday, I was into it. So I got into all that British invasion stuff, Herman's Hermits, the Dave Clark Five. I probably still have some of the original albums, actually. Right. And that started the journey. So yeah, we were exposed to a lot of music. I mean, the Buffalongo, the band that played at the St. Thomas Club, played a lot of the music of the day, like Cream and Traffic and the Band. And so that helped too. That Jimi Hendrix, that helped too. So, and it's just been with me all this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How soon or when? So when you left high school, and I think you said in your thing, I was looking at you was at the University of Miami.
Yeah, well, first it was SMU. Okay. I went back to Dallas for a year.
Okay.
And Dallas had at that point a very different feeling to it because I came back. I was a hippie, had long hair, and was definitely into that kind of counterculture thing. And I'd walk through campus, and these rednecks would drive through campus and say, "Hey, little girl, you wanna fight?" They wanted to beat us up. I mean, we one time we tried to go into a restaurant. They wouldn't let us in because of our long hair. And so it didn't fit. So after a year, I transferred, and I don't know how this happened. I got into the University of Miami on like 3 weeks' notice.
Wow.
My parents did something. I don't know how. It's a mystery. I don't know. They're gone now, so I'll never know how that happened.
Meant to be, I suppose.
I don't know. It was weird. But that first year at the University of Miami, got to see Jethro Tull, Janis Joplin played there, the Jefferson Airplane. I mean, they had such a great concert. The Byrds, they had such a great concert series. Peter Frampton, before Frampton came alive. Yeah. It's very cool. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so your studies were in college then? Were you in journalism then, or were you? What was your?
I think so. At the time. Well, it's a while ago.
Yeah, sure.
But it was called Mass Communications, which, yes, translated as journalism and broadcasting, and I didn't use it for a very long time. But eventually I got a job in South Florida with a TV station, with a CBS TV station. And so I said, okay, now that sort of makes sense. That money on tuition that my parents paid sort of paid for itself, I guess, at this point.
What was your job there?
Well, it
Anything
was,
and everything?
I was the PR guy. Okay. I sat behind a desk, and my job was to kind of get our TV personalities out into the community and to MC events and to, help sponsor events and to give tours of the station and that sort of thing. And then for a brief time, I was one of the anchors of a morning show, which allowed me to talk about music, local music, but I had to get up at like 6 a.m. It was very difficult. I mean, who's awake at 6 a.m? Well, people are awake, but it was difficult. But it was fun. Yeah. It was fun.
Well, that's very cool. So one of your, just that you were covering local music then and have not only covered all of these artists that we'll talk about a little bit in the different publications and books that you've written for and written.
Yeah.
But you're also doing that here with us now a lot.
Well, it's, again, I got to say, with all deep sincerity, it's an honor. It's an absolute honor to be here, to be involved with this incredible scene and with these incredible musicians, and more importantly, incredible musicians who are incredible people. It's so amazing here. And just, just to be a small part of it is so cool. I have to give credit to Mick Harrison and Matt Woods for being here. And the reason I say that is because they came down to Miami one time, and I had been following Mick. He was very famous to me. I knew about his records way before I met him. And I just remember we went to lunch, we connected, and I overheard Mick and Matt, or Matt and Mick, talking about Knoxville and about the scene and about the venues. And I was just sort of overhearing him. I said, that sounds like a really great place to be.
Right.
I mean, I had a friend in that other city across.
Yeah. That's fine. You can say.
We don't.
No,
mention.
You can. I was being silly. He's talking about Nashville.
I knew something about Tennessee, but they really inspired me to want to check this place out. And plus, I had read in the newspaper people that had moved here and talked about the beautiful mountains and all the wonderful things about life here. And so eventually that's what sort of propelled me to be here. So I really, Mick and Matt, or Matt and Mick and Matt, I really have such gratitude to those guys, and who are dear friends now. You know,
we now know who to blame. Yeah, we know who to go after now.
Well, there's plenty. Mick Harris and Beware. You know, there's plenty you can blame.
Well, they've both been on the podcast.
Yeah, they've both been guests here.
Have they? Okay, yeah.
When about what time? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say Mick Harrison's a perfect match. Just like you, he has a bushy beard.
But he's not nearly as good looking as I am, Lee. Moving on. Around what year was this when you came back, or when you were around them and hearing about the Knoxville scene and all of that good stuff?
God, I can tell you pretty well. It was. I can tell you, it's about 30 years ago.
Okay.
Because I've been here 20, I've been here 10, but we bought our house 20 years ago. So there's 10 years before that where I heard about it. And then we actually did buy our house and rented it out before we were in a position to move here. So the lesson here, if you want to take away anything from this conversation, never be a landlord. An absentee landlord, especially. Horrible.
I will second that.
But, we came up here, we looked around, we found a house we were interested in, went back to South Florida, found out the house was already had, a claim on it. And I said to my wife, well, we're going to keep on, because if we just give up now, this won't happen. And I was dedicated to this task. I said, we're going to do this. So we came up like a month later, found our house in Murrayville.
Mm-hmm.
Murrayville.
I like that.
Murrayville. And that was it. And it was, I think it was like 9 years that we had to rent it out. My wife wasn't ready to retire. She was a school teacher. So we had to work out the logistics. So we were absentee landlords. And I remember specifically, an artist named Robin Hitchcock. He's fantastic.
I recognize the name, but I do not know them.
All right. Well, Robin Hitchcock is he's a Brit, and he's kind of a psychedelic guy, really cool guy. And I remember interviewing him and saying, yeah, Robin, so we're going to be moving up there in 9 years. And I remember him saying to me, 9 years? Oh, my God, 9 years. That's such a long... And it bummed me out. And then I had another friend who said, 9 years? Oh, come on. And it really seemed like impossible. 9 years, if you think about it, it's a very long time. But I was literally counting down the minutes till I got here. And planning the finances, planning everything about it. And it was a long 9 years, but here I am. And that was 10 years ago. So, it worked out. Time does pass eventually,
and to some, depending on what concept of the time, those 9 years can be, can take forever, or they can be gone in a blink of an eye. It seems like these days, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It seems so. It really, really seems so, but it was worth it because, the separation between now and then, life, I think, Mike, you'd probably agree with this because you've been around, but life is like a series of chapters in a book, and one situation where you are now is the current chapter. But when you look back, for me, there's such a disconnect between now and my life before. So it really seems like a totally different chapter. And I don't relate to those other chapters. I relate to Dallas and St. Thomas, not so much South Florida. But, it seems like different chapters. Yeah. And it's really sort of interesting in that way,
Yeah, I would agree with that. For those of you all maybe that's just now tuned in or whatever, but we're talking with Lee Zimmerman author of the Americana Music, Voices, Visionaries, and Pioneers of an Honest Sound. Lee's been in...
It took me about 6 months to memorize that time.
Lee is a dear friend. He's done several write-ups on bands that I've been a part of, and then with the Christmas Spectacular that we do each and every year, and wonderful writer. They can get the book. It looks like it's on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
And of course, the first chapter was Ralph Stanley. And you were telling us a few stories on before we got actually officially started. But who are some of the other folks that are in this book as well?
A couple of members of the Byrds, David Crosby and Chris Hillman are in there. John Hyatt is in there. The late Guy Clark, Lyle Lovett. There's a lot of. I should get out the book here and look through the table of contents.
I've got I've got it. We've got it pulled up here in front of us as well.
Okay.
Some of the folks, but just touching base with like the Byrds, their contribution was huge. With for a crossover of between folk and popular music.
Exactly.
And then you talk about, we got the Gosden brothers from the Byrds, and then Vern to come out later in really late in life to be a featured artist. But that folk music of the Byrds and all of that stuff was big crossover. Had lots of things came out of that, from the West Coast, especially with everything from Graham Parsons to Sweethearts of the Rodeo, the Flying Burrito Brothers. I mean, it touched a lot of genres.
Yeah. Richie Furay of the band Poco was another band that was essential in that crossover. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. John McEwen, who's a dear friend who also goes into, the bluegrass and sort of thing. I think, I'm glad you brought all that up, because one of the things that I was attempting to do, and I realized you can't really define Americana, but one of the things that I was trying to do is point out that while Americana, has been a hot term, a brand, so to speak, for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe. The fact is that it's not new, that bands like the Byrds and the Dirt Band and Poco and the Burrito Brothers, they were Americana before there was such a thing as Americana, because that was the whole country crossover. Yeah. And they were these long-haired hippie guys, but at the same time, you think about an album that the Dirt Band did called Will the Circle Be Unbroken, where they had Mother Maybelle Carter and all these iconic people in the studio with the hippies. And that was an amazing consequential breakthrough, as was the album you just mentioned, Sweethearts of the Rodeo. Again, you had hints of country music appearing in rock and roll, like even the Beatles, Don't Pass Me By, and some of the stuff Ringo was doing then is doing now. And even the Stones, when they connected with Graham Parsons, Dead Flowers, that track. Yeah. So there was hints of it in the popular mainstream. But, when these bands came along, that was the essential crossover. That's what started Americana. Yeah. It's not really a new thing. It's been around. Yeah. Everly Brothers, Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, they were Americana in the 50s,
100%. Yeah, I mean, they were the ones who created the new audience. They were the ones that you like. That music sounded familiar because maybe you listened to it in your parents' car on country music, just for say country music. But they were the ones who also brought it to a little bit of a new life that the counterculture and or younger kids were saying, this ain't half bad. This is I enjoy this. I like this.
Right. The band, there's another, the band. They were the essence of Americana.
Yeah, and you think we were looking at some of the other stuff, and not to jump subjects, I don't want to jump way ahead, but but the contributions of I think also Americana can be termed, and like you were saying with R&B and from the contributions that Stax Records made during such an ill time of hatred and bigotry and segregation and all that, and the stuff that came out of there, that's Americana, to me as well.
Right. Yeah, you've actually provided me with a perfect segue there.
Hey, that's what I do, Lee. I'm not just a pretty face, folks.
No, you're a professional, Mike. You guys are professional. But my second book, 30 Years Behind the Glass, was written about a gentleman named Jim Gaines, Gaines, who sadly passed away beginning of this year. And he was the house producer for Stax Record, worked with Steve Cropper, worked with Otis Redding, worked with all those great artists, and went on to produce Stevie Ray Vaughan and Carlos Santana and Steve Miller. Here's the Steve Miller. So, so that sort of, it wasn't part two, but it did connect that way,
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on past episodes, but one of the first times that I actually was able to go through Memphis and have time to stop and enjoy some of what the city has to offer and some of the history and stuff. And the buddy I was traveling with at the time, he said, what's there to do in Memphis? And I started naming off, Bill Street, Sun Records, Stax, and blah, 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 and the Memphis Chicks, and we got to go eat at Rendezvous and drink Michelob beer on draft and eat ribs, and the Peabody, and I was naming off all this stuff, and he's like, well, we only have time for a certain amount of things. He's like, what's the one thing you would want to do more than anything? And I was like, I want to go to the Stax Record Museum. That was...
Sure, yeah.
PBS did a wonderful documentary on it years ago, and my neighbor, who, and I said that right, neighbor, who
I love that.
He was a audiophile, videophile. I mean, he was a collector of everything, and he turned me on to that documentary, which, at that time in my life, I was just this sponge. I wanted more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted history. I wanted songs. I wanted stuff, because everybody thinks they've heard everything and they haven't, and I wanted more songs. I wanted more stuff to draw from to be creative. And Stax was just a... man, what a place, what talents, what good things came out of there.
Yeah.
And I don't think people would think about, I don't know if folks would think about Americana being that, unfortunately.
No. I mean, Stax was, you had Motown, but Stax was
Soulsville.
Southern. So, it was a different deal, but Motown gets a lot of the credit, but Stax should get the credit for bringing the diversity into the mainstream, it was really significant. So I have to ask you, when you were in Memphis, I think I know the answer. Did you go to Graceland?
I did not. That was one of the things that we didn't have time to get to do. And right. The Stax Museum topped my topped my chart.
Okay.
I had to see that and be around that. I have since been to Graceland and some of those other places, but that one time I had that was Stax was it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
One of the song that we actually accompanies this podcast, we do the first verse that leads you into the podcast each week is a line that came from Rufus Thomas. And I ripped him off fair and square, I got to say. But I was watching a film documentary, and Rufus at the time was DJing a morning show in Memphis.
Yep.
And film crew and everybody walks in, and he's wearing, of course, only as Rufus Thomas could do, he's wearing a suit that could be seen from outer space, but he's clean, man, and looking nice, and looking good. And the guy says, Rufus, you're looking awful sharp today. And he said, you either is or you ain't, you do or you don't, you can or you can't, or you will or you won't. And when I heard that, I was like, I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that fair and square. And then behind that, either way, baby, a good man is hard to find. And that's the song that accompanies, that intros the podcast every week. So I love Stax Records and the music that came out there. And more importantly, the story of goodwill that came out of there as well. Throughout those times.
You mentioned, you hinted at before you talked about Stax and some of the conflict. The book opens in 1968. I think it's April of 68, after Martin Luther King had been killed.
Right.
And Jim had to run to the studio. They were afraid they were going to loot and burn the studio. So he was literally grabbing tapes and putting them in his car because, they didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
The city was in flames, Fortunately, they didn't go and, cause any damage, but it was scary. Yeah.
If you're wanting to check that out as well, it's on Amazon. It is 30 Years Behind the Glass. From Otis Redding and Stax Records to Santana's Supernatural, Jim Gaines as told to Lee Zimmerman. So you can check. There's two books.
You are such a professional, Mike McGill.
Well, we're trying. We're trying to gain on it.
No, you really are professional. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's came a long way. This was we've got 70 some odd episodes now under our belt, and the first one was with our good friend and your friend as well, Mark Dunn. He was our first guest, and we may have.
Have you read his new book? His new book's amazing.
Yeah, we highlighted it and had him back on our 1 year anniversary when he had gotten the book finished, and did an episode about that. But we may or may not have partaked in some glaucoma medication before that first. Podcast, and how things have changed.
Wow.
You were talking about what are some of, obviously all of this, it's a who's who of who you've been able to who you've been able to interview, but who's someone that you have, obviously you said Paul McCartney, Ralph Stanley, Hank Williams.
Hank Williams Jr.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm not that old. Where Hank died.
Wheels were around back then, Lee? Is that what you're telling me?
Not quite. But by chance, when I lived in St. Thomas, I met the Rolling Stones. That was, my dad was driving us down Main Street, and I look over, I said, that guy looks really familiar. You know, you see somebody and think, very distinctive looking. I jumped out of the car. It was Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
He ducked into a store. He was with Bobby Keys, the sax player. They come out, and I said, Dad, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, you know, we're here overnight. I went home, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna check this out. And I thought, I'm going to call hotels. And the first hotel I called, I said, do you have a Charlie Watts register there? Oh, yes, we do. With security. So I went to the hotel. I went to the beach. I looked down, and there, in fact, is a gathering of Rolling Stones. But I'm sitting here on the lounge chair. They're to my right. And I said, how do I get over and sort of, you know, get into this group? And no sooner do I think that than here comes Mick Jagger walking towards the group, walking towards me. I didn't think twice. I jump up. I said, hey, Mick, how's it going? I heard you had some trouble the other night at one of your shows. And he's looking at me like a deer in headlights. but I just kind of follow him down to this enclave, and I don't know what to do. I'm leaning against the palm tree. They're talking amongst themselves. And there's Keith Richard, who at that time, you know, was Keith Richard. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, what have we got here? A Pinkerton god? And I respond by saying, yeah, right. And he goes, yeah, right, mocking me out. And Charlie Watts, bless his heart, that's such a great soul. He goes, Keith, leave him alone. He's okay. And so it was cool. I was just there observing. Right. In the midst of Rolling Stones, except for Bill Wyman, the bass player. He was not there, but I met him a few years later, when he was doing his solo album, and I interviewed Bill Wyman like a month and a half ago on the Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, it was so cool. So that, so I don't know. I guess I'm kind of a groupie at heart.
Yeah.
But I admire musicians and the work that they do, and I'm in awe of them, and the way the music has filled my life. It's like going to Mount Olympus or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like.
So did you mention the thing to Bill Wyman, and or did you
yes,
did you ever get to interview any of the other ones that
no, not after the fact. Yeah. After the fact, unfortunately, I did get to interview Robert Plant once.
Oh wow!
I was very intimidated by him. Robert Plant, he was as gracious as can be, very gentle. I have to say, and I hope this doesn't get back to me with Beach Boys fans, because I love and admire Brian Wilson. I've interviewed him twice on the phone. The worst interview of all time. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
respond. You say, Brian, your album Pet Sounds, what a great album, and he replies by saying, yeah, it was a really good album. That was And then after 7 minutes, he says, okay, gotta go now. We were supposed to be 20. So,
Well, some folks are like that. Some folks that you think, I mean, obviously not to that level, but we've interviewed folks and you think, well, this might be a challenging one,
I hope you never
and they're
that.
Great. And then other ones that you think was going to be great might be a little challenging, but to say the least.
Yeah. Well, so what happens.
Yeah.
It's
damn Mick Harrison. He was like that.
It's awkward. Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a wonderful life.
Well, you were telling us also about being at the first Tom Petty show.
Oh yeah,
when they had changed when they had officially, I guess, went from Mudcrutch to
in Gainesville to they. I was working for the late great ABC Records, Shelter Records, which is the label they were on, which Leon Russell had started essentially in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So they were signed to Shelter. And as the promo guy for the record label, part of the job is to go down and have a presence when the artists play in your area.
Sure.
So they were playing this little tiny dive with peanut shells on the floor. And so they were there.
Well, it's Gainesville, after all. I mean...
Well, it wasn't Gainesville because they were coming out of Gainesville. This was West Palm Beach.
Okay.
West Palm Beach. So I was there, and I had been introduced to them before the show. All the guys were really cool in front of Tom. Mr. Petty. I can't call him Tom. Mr. Petty. You could tell he had star quality. He was kind of aloof, very charismatic, kind of distant. All the other guys, very cool. So they're doing their show, and they're doing songs from that very first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album, and so I walked with them back to this makeshift dressing room, which was really just a kitchen, in the club or in the bar, whatever. And somebody had written on the side of the refrigerator, "Heartbreakers suck." Why? Why would they do that? But I remember that vividly. I interviewed Mike Campbell about 1.5 years ago. He didn't remember it, but I still do.
Yeah.
Heartbreakers suck. But but it was very cool to have experienced that, and
well, Mike is I got to meet Mike before, and actually got to play a little music with him, and I was visiting some friends over in Hawaii one year, and our good friend Matt Morlock had been doing a few things on tour with the Heartbreakers and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go over to my friend Mike's house tonight for dinner."
Oh.
And I was like, "Okay, cool." And we walk in, and Howlin' Wolf is playing on a turntable.
Yeah.
And I walk out, and there sits Mike Campbell, and just a super duper unassuming, just humble, very nice guy. And I was sitting there just like trying not to fanboy out and ask a million questions, because I had a million questions.
It's hard.
But
it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he lives on Hawaii. He lives in Hawaii.
He's got a house on Kauai. Yeah, up on the north.
On Kauai, yeah. the garden. That's the one place. That's the one place in Hawaii that I've actually been. Todd Rundgren lives there too.
Yeah, and Bill Kreutzmann from the Dead.
Oh, okay.
He lives there. I got to actually go fishing on Bill's boat with him.
Wow.
And we sat and talked about bluegrass music. It was the damnedest thing. Wow. I mean, I knew they had some bluegrass, fandom, and they had hearkened to that in some of their recordings and their live show and stuff. But yeah, he was just a super nice guy, and we were just out there, with another couple of buddies in the boat, and just out there fishing,
Wow, amazing!
Yeah,
really.
And he was a super, super nice guy. But I asked him. I said, so. I can't remember how I asked it, but he basically was, how this career would you have ever dreamed it? Would you have ever, something along those lines?
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but he just said, well, he said, I've won the lottery 3 times. He said, that's how I would sum it up. He said, the first time with out when we were in San Francisco, and that all happened when we had our first big hit. And he said, then, we toured and we had a good life and we did all these amazing things. He said, and then, the second time we hit the lottery was when A Touch of Grey came out, which was my alley, because that was the MTV generation, and where I heard about the Dead. I didn't know who the hell the Grateful Dead was till then.
Really?
No.
Okay.
A lot of actually a lot of music, like with ZZ Top, for an example. I wouldn't have known about, DeGuayo and Fandango and, Tres Hombres and all those old records if I hadn't have seen that video the first time on MTV, but it made me want to go back and, seek that out.
Right.
But he said that was the second time they hit, pardon me, that was the second time they hit the lottery. And then the third time was when the Dead and Company were, doing their thing now. And at that time, I guess they're still touring. I'm not sure, but it's a small world,
Phil Lesh passed away, but they got John Mayer in there, and it's like the Allman Brothers. There are not too many Allman Brothers, but they fill in and they do the tribute, and that's the thing. Yeah.
I asked Mike. I said, "What was your what was your moment?" I said, "You're listening to Howlin'." I said, my moment is I'm here on Hawaii, 7,000 miles away from home, and I'm listening to Howlin' Wolf on a record player and getting ready to eat dinner at your home. And I said, "If I may," and he said, "Yeah." He said they were doing a show where Muddy Waters was closing the show out. And he said they had just got finished, and as the Heartbreakers and Tom were walking off the stage, that Muddy Waters said, "Hey, I want you guys to come on and play with me on my encore." And they were like, Tom was like, "Sure, yeah, that'd be great, And Mike said, "Well, what are you going to play for your encore?" And he goes, "Son, I seen you play guitar. You'll be just fine." And he said that his whole band left the stage, and they were his band for that encore.
Wow.
And said it's one of the most craziest thing. It was his moment to be able to do that, and so
it's Muddy Waters.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? But a lot of times we find, artists like that are just, regular folks like us, and then
trying to be
one. Yeah. And then there's other times that there's those that, that saying, you don't want to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I got to say, I really can't think of anybody that's not been nice. Not been nice. And I worked with, at Capitol Records, I worked with Bob Seger.
Oh.
And I got to cover his concerts twice. The first time, we went backstage, and he was not friendly. He was like irritated, and I don't know. The second time, he was really gracious. But I think sometimes, like everybody, maybe they're having a bad day.
Man.
Maybe
could have had a bad show.
You never know. You never know. It could be anything.
I think Bob Seger's criminally. I don't know if he's criminally underrated, but
I would say he is.
I would say he is.
I think he laid the foundation for Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah,
I really do.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I really do. And I like Bob Seger. You can't see it, but I have a ton of gold and platinum albums on the office wall here because his manager Punch Andrews was so gracious that when Bob had a hit, and he had hit albums, he'd send all the promo guys gold or platinum albums. So I have, Stranger in Town and a whole bunch of, 9 to 9. I have a whole bunch of albums, gold and platinum albums on the wall, courtesy of Bob's.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that the coolest thing in your office?
Yeah. I have various plaques here from people, and signatures and stuff like that. but yeah, I guess in terms of what really stands out, legendary, it's the gold and platinum albums. I have some, when I would write song lyrics, I got some things up there that, signify that, and some citations, and I had pictures of myself when I was in Virgin Islands. I have old pictures of myself too. I have a picture of myself at 3 years old, 4 years old, with my cowboy hat and cowboy outfit. That goes back a ways.
Well, I was
not that far, but a handful of decades. Yeah.
Well, I'd seen where WVLT had done a thing with you on a basement filled with albums, show the man's dedication to a life in music.
They've actually been here twice. The second time, after Jimmy Buffett had passed away, and I, said I worked with Buffett. That song Margaritaville, which is first national hit. He had come Monday. It was kind of regional, but I helped break that record, and I have a gold record on my wall for Changes in Attitude. So anyway, they were out here a couple of times, checking the music basement. So you guys have to come out and check it out too. Would love
to. I've got I was telling you about my neighbor. He when I moved back in or went back home, and when my dad was terminal, and then I decided that I was going to have to stay to help take care of them.
Yeah.
He had been diagnosed with a very, very rare type of cancer, and he hadn't, other than going to work or the store and post office and things like that, he hadn't left since probably like 85.
Yeah.
And he had to get treatment in Vanderbilt. So the whole process, while I was taking care of them, I was taking him back and forth. But I wound up with a bunch of I wound up buying his old house that was next door to us. And I have a ton of records up there and albums that I need I need some folks that know old and older music, and maybe not such popular music, that come up and look through those things, because he's got, I don't know, there's probably 500 albums, and I don't know how many 45s and different things of all, but he was a music lover. So being a music lover yourself, you've kept all these things, and you've traveled with them, you've packed them up and moved them with you, and
Mike. I mean, your
music basement, if you will.
I had a lot of vinyl and CDs in Miami, and I was going to take them with me. And oh man, I hate to admit this, but between the albums, CDs, and the books, I think it cost me $15,000.
Oh, goodness.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I had investments with CBS. And so I just cashed out, the plan that they had, the whatever it was. And I just cashed it out. And I used that to for the $15,000. And it literally, God, I think there's like 300 boxes, and it took me literally 6 months to sort them out and put them in the alphabetical order. And it was one guy came over one day and helped. Of course, my wife, Elisa, she can't hear. She wasn't very helpful, I gotta say. No, she wasn't. So it was me all by myself putting away all the albums, and it did take 6 months. It was the total nerd experience. Yeah. I mean, you gotta be a dedicated nerd to do that. And even now, I still put things in order and alphabetize, and buy a ton of albums and collect, and I'm still, it's like a real focus, it lets me just bury myself in that pastime, I love it.
Do you
Crazy.
Still get to, obviously you listen to them still?
Well, now my job, quote unquote, is to write about music and review it. So most of the time I have to listen to the stuff that I'm focusing on if I'm interviewing an artist or if I'm reviewing it. So, and I still have a CD player in my car, and I listen to a lot of stuff there. And so that's what I listen to. But between assignments, I guess you'd say, I have a whole listening stack. Actually, I'm reviewing, but what you're seeing behind me, I have two piles of that, listening things I just want to listen to for my pleasure. So, I don't know how long it'll take to get through all of these, but I did put them aside, rather put them in my collection because I do want to listen to it. But the truthful answer is I collect. If I like a band or an artist, if I discover them because I'm reviewing their current album, I have to go back and collect everything by that artist. I have to be a completist. And that's the secret of collecting in that regard. So that's what I do. And that's how the collection, I used to have all these things, all the stuff above. I had a room above a garage. And I was always afraid that it was going to cave in because I didn't know if it was an add-on, if there was. I was always afraid it would cave in. But now I have a basement. And that's a wonderful thing about living here. You have basements. Yeah. You guys have basements?
There's not a basement one in Florida, buddy. Not a single one.
Yeah.
You can in Florida because you'll hit, the groundwater.
Yeah.
But that's like a bonus room in itself,
Oh, absolutely.
A finished basement. So I have 3 rooms of finished basements. What a dream come true. And all the walls are covered with posters and the ceiling's covered with posters. And I have buttons and I have memorabilia. This is my teenage fantasy. Come true. It really is. It's dream come true.
Yeah.
Literally.
I understand completely. When the pandemic first hit, the first thing I thought about was, what do I do? Where am I going to quarantine if something happens? Because I'm now not only mom and dad, but I'm also lifeline for the neighbor as well. I got 3 people that I'm trying to take care of and help and deal with through all this crazy stuff. And,
hope the neighbor was grateful for that.
Oh, he was, truly grateful.
That's where the bro comes into the neighbor.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he would make me CDs. He said, "Now, Michael, you've not heard this, and this is you could do that. You could do this in your act. You could bring this one back, And he was always giving me ideas and different stuff. And but I built the honky tonk, and I was like, so I'm just going to build me a building. So yeah, that's what that became. And then I had a place to get away. I also had a place to quarantine if I was going to be able, if I needed to. But then it also allowed me to have a place to listen to music and write and play and just, and have all my tchotchkes and little stuff and all the stuff that I'd been carrying around for years that was cool to me, So yeah, I can totally understand the love of your basement for sure, of having a place for your stuff, just the stuff you enjoy, stuff that makes you happy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, really.
Now, if we just get a high-speed internet over there, we'll be in business.
Yeah. We're at Honky Tonk 2 today.
Yeah, we're at Honky Tonk 2 today. We're at Jamie's lair. So,
okay.
That's why we're not smoking. I don't want to get yelled at.
Yeah.
You always have to have somebody like Jamie. You have to have a Jamie, a technical guy, because I'm just totally not proficient at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the computer does something, I freak out. I mean, so you have to have a Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie, thank you for being a Jamie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I try to be.
Yeah. I know. You do a good job.
Helpful.
Do a good job.
Thank you.
You really do.
When we first started playing, when I first started playing electric guitar and stuff with the Romeos, they had pedals and switches and all this stuff, and I was like, guys, I can't do this. This is way above my pay grade. First of all, I've never even hit a lick on an electric guitar. I've played acoustic all my life.
Yeah.
And now I got to remember what buttons do what. And I'm like, I couldn't even plug it up right. And still to this day, I don't know if it's part of me being a little bit dyslexic or what, but still to this day, sometimes I'll plug in my tuner and or my preamp
backwards,
and I'll get it backwards.
About half the time.
Yeah.
Half the time.
And I'll be like, I'll have to look at Poe or Jamie or somebody, and I'm like, just make it work. Could you please just make it work for me? I know what to do once it works.
Yeah.
So
I know
I
what it's like. I mean, I used to be able to hook up a VCR or a Betamax, again, aging, but I used to be able to do all of that. And now I have no idea how to. I don't know how to change the channels on my TV set downstairs. I really, literally, I'm not kidding you, don't know how to change the channels. Too many choices. You know,
you need a Jamie.
Yeah.
He's for hire.
I know.
I'm for hire.
He works cheap.
I wouldn't say that, but I'm for hire.
We'll talk. I do have some technical issues I need to figure out. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Again, for everybody listening, or maybe just tuning in, or maybe you fast forwarded, we're with our good buddy and longtime friend Lee Zimmer, journalist, published author, official good guy. We can say that.
Thank you. I love being part of this exclusive club.
Yeah, you can find some of his work. The first book we talked about was Americana Music, Voices, Visionaries, and Pioneers of an Honest Sound. You can find that on Amazon. And you can also find 30 Years Behind the Glass, from Otis Redding and Stax Records to Santana's Supernatural. So go and do yourselves a favor. You got a little homework to do. It won't cost you any money. You'll spend that at McDonald's. So just go do it, would you? Mm-hmm. And help support Lee and the channel, and read some interesting things about life that he's covered with Americana Music and as well as Stax Records. I was going to ask you, there was one, could you pick a favorite interview? Did you ever have a favorite? Maybe a unicorn guest that you didn't ever think you would ever?
Well, I mean, I didn't actually do the interview, but I was there when we did the Paul McCartney. It was the entertainment reporter at the TV station. So, I mean, I idolized Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So that, I would say that was definitely cool. Meeting Roger Daltrey of The Who was cool. Do you know a band called... oh God, gonna age myself. The Zombies.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've actually gotten to know them a little bit on some of these music cruises we've taken. And they're just really great guys. Jerry Lee Lewis's sister, got to hang out with her a bit. They're just, I don't know. I mean, after we go off the air, I'll think of tons that I should have probably mentioned.
Well,
but there's been a lot, and I'm just really grateful that I've had the opportunity, to
absolutely
meet these folks. I mean, people like Jim Lauderdale, kind of with a local connection, and Sam Lewis, and you, Mike McGill. Come on. Come on, we'll put you in there.
You better. I mean, thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you better. I mean, thank you. Quick return. But it just, but people who are just nice and gracious, and that's what's really, I think, important.
Yeah,
just,
absolutely.
We need nice people. I mean, that's where it's at.
Absolutely.
That's where it's at.
Well, we do a little thing, just some first thing pops in your mind, just some random questions that we've asked several folks.
Okay.
And
right.
If you would like to do that, we would love to ask you some of these things.
Fresher, a little fresher. Okay.
No pressure. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no, It doesn't have to, and you don't have to deliberate. It's just.
We don't do tests.
Yeah, no.
No quizzes here.
No pop quiz. Hot shot.
So you're going to say something, and then I'm going to name the name of somebody I associate that with.
Well, for an example, what's the best fair food?
It's just random questions we pulled out of our rear end. Is what they are.
Okay. Oh, so I should name the food.
The best fair. Right. What do you consider the best fair food?
I know that for sure. The fried dough, fair food.
Oh, funnel cake. About fair food.
Yeah, that's another way to put it. I cut fried dough with a powdered sugar. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. No question.
If you could live in any decade, which would it be?
I think I'd like to go back to the 1960s. Yeah. So excited. Yeah. Pre-disco.
Pre-disco.
Early 60s.
Yeah, but the 60s. I mean, it was a scary decade, too. Yeah. You had a war in Vietnam and a lot of turbulence. But the music and the culture, I mean, I wish I'd been in San Francisco in the 60s, So, yeah, 60s. And if you want to know the place, San Francisco, I wish I'd been at Woodstock. My wife was at Woodstock.
Oh, really?
I wish Yeah.
She remembers it.
Well, if you remember, you weren't there.
Yeah, that's what they say. She remembers
some of it.
That's what they say.
I asked her, I say, hey, did you see Creedence Clearwater Revival? Did you see Jimi Hendrix? Well, no, but I remember Canned Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could meet one man or woman in history, who would that be?
Well, that's easy. Paul McCartney. Absolutely. Yeah. Love Paul McCartney.
What was your first car?
A 1966 Ford Mustang.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, coupe.
You can't hide money,
Not the hatchback.
What's your dream car?
My dream car now, that same 1966 navy blue Mustang. I'd love to have that car again. Yeah.
Yeah, those are sweet.
That would be my dream car.
You don't have to be limited to one, but who are some of your favorite Knoxville bands and or artists?
Any band Mike McGill's in.
Thank you. Good answer.
Yes,
good answer. Survey says
100.
Yes. All right.
Well, Mick Harrison in the High Score. Absolutely great rock and roll band. Lone Tones. I love the Lone Tones. There's a new band. I don't know if you've heard of this kid. His name is Milkman and the Big Band.
I've seen that name out, but I didn't know they were a local.
Yeah, no, they are local, and they played at the Bijou a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And this kid, Milkman, Dino is his real name. He's infatuated with the Beatles and Paul McCartney. So that's the mindset. And they play great covers, but they've got original tunes. It's an 18-piece band with strings, horns.
Wow.
Really amazing. Yeah. So
that's
I got to give him a shout out.
Okay.
Milkman.
Well, we'll have to, maybe we'll have to get him on the Spectacular this year.
Oh, Dino. Yeah. He's terrific.
He brings all those folks. We have to get him on there for about 4 songs.
Yeah, for sure.
I go take a break.
There you go. Yeah. I have a friend, Doug Wilhite, who's a singer-songwriter, Billy Hubbard, who's a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, Billy.
They both put out albums around the same time late last year. So would have to give them a shout out too. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Christmas?
A favorite Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was it? 2 years ago when it snowed on Christmas.
Okay.
My first and only white Christmas.
Really?
It was magical.
Very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they look relit.
Yeah.
Texas, Florida, St. Thomas.
That's true.
It wouldn't happen in St. Thomas. No, it wouldn't have happened in Florida.
Texas, maybe.
But to me, the ideal thing is having a white Christmas. And when it snowed Christmas Eve, and then I said, my dream has come true. My dream has come true. I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it, but it's true. But of course, when you go back and you're a kid, of course, all those Christmases were wonderful too.
Yeah,
and when
absolutely.
my kid was small, and so there's a lot of good Christmases there. Yeah. But Mike McGill, your Christmas show brings it all home, buddy.
Well, thank you.
God, we love that. Oh my gosh. That's brilliant. Love that.
Thank you.
Love it.
That'll be this year will be number 13. So it's
and it'll be here
13.
before we know it.
Yeah.
We say it every year.
It will be. It's already February or whenever this airs. Yeah.
Yeah. So with your fair food answer, you have a sweet tooth. What's your favorite candy bar?
I love Three Musketeers. Three Musketeers.
You know that Three Musketeers used to be three separate bars, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
Really?
Yeah. Three Musketeers trivia for you.
So it was like a Neapolitan.
Yep. It was three. That's where the Three Musketeers originated. It was 3 bars inside.
Wow.
Yep.
Huh.
When was that, Jamie? Do you remember that? Can we age you?
When I used to run trivia at my restaurant, so it was one of them.
Oh, okay.
But it was early on when it first came. I'll look it up. But
all right. Yeah, that's mine. That's mine for sure.
What about your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh God. Well, I'd have to say It's a Wonderful Life. Or Jimmy Stewart, Jimmy Stewart. Clarence, you got its wings. Yeah, it just gives me an excuse to narrate the movie like that. And people get so annoyed when they're sitting there and I'm doing Jimmy Stewart. I'm sorry.
Are you a stand-up comedian guy? If
I would like to be. No, I did. I mean, when I do my songs and stories, when I was a kid, I loved and admired Johnny Carson.
Yeah,
I still
and
love.
I remember when I was a child, getting to stay up to watch Johnny Carson was
a big deal.
It was an event.
Yeah,
it was an event,
and it was worth staying up for, though.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah, it's just great.
And so when my parents said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be Johnny Carson." And as a matter of fact, Doc Severinsen, his music director, lives in Maryland. And I have a picture on my wall of me and Doc Severinsen at the shrimp dock where he goes on occasion.
Wow. I was not aware of that.
Doc Severinsen. Oh, my God.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to love.
So that might have been my number 2 answer, or tied for number 1 when you asked me, who would I like to be? Maybe I'd like to be Johnny Carson.
Yeah. Wouldn't be a bad one, I don't suppose.
I did not know that.
Three Musketeers was started in 1932 and remained a chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla until the war. So until the 40s. And then they changed it over to just chocolate because of the expense of making vanilla and strawberry.
Huh.
Really? It's a whole different thing. Wow. Well, you learn something every day. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you a movie fan as well?
Yes, I'm a very big movie fan, and in fact, over the last week or so, I've watched 3 Blu-rays or DVDs, 4 actually, in the privacy of my bedroom, because I'm now that I got the DVD or the Blu-ray player hooked up, I'm watching movies. Yeah.
Well, good. What do you have a favorite horror movie?
Oh, well, what was the one? God, the one where it's very old, from the 60s or before, and it was Village of the Damned.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know that movie?
I do.
Where the kids' eyes were like lighting up and bright?
Yeah.
There's a couple of remakes too, but the original.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's Frankenstein and there's King Kong, but I always felt sorry for King Kong and for Frankenstein because they were so misunderstood and people were trying to kill them or whatever. And they couldn't help who they were. They were,
they certainly,
defensive.
They certainly couldn't be in a good mood, Yeah. What about your favorite mob movie?
The Untouchables.
Oh, that's a great one.
That one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Untouchables.
We put one of theirs we put one of theirs in the morgue.
Yeah.
But there was a remake that they did in Miami with Al Pacino. I mean, I couldn't mention the Godfather movies. So they would definitely be. But there was one they did about Miami and the cocaine cowboys, and I just hated it because they're trying to make these people heroes and they weren't. So I would say the Untouchables or the Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Untouchables is one that doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
But it should, man.
Maybe the first person to answer that one, but it's a wonderful movie.
I love it. Yeah.
What's your favorite Christmas carol?
Favorite Christmas carols?
Yes.
There's so many. Oh, there's so Harky, Herald Angels Sing, Silent Night. Well, yeah, I'd have to say Silent Night over everything. And everybody says Silent Night, but it's so beautiful, and for a secular Christmas song, Winter Wonderland.
I love
absolutely. Winter Wonderland would be my secular choice.
Very good.
Yeah. Oh, I love Christmas music. Yeah. I love it.
I do too. Since starting,
I know you do. Obviously, that's big.
Well, and since starting that, just all of the people are like, it's got to be a Christmas song. There's not that many, and I'm like, there are millions of them.
Well, what did they really?
Yeah, not everyone, but there have been a few guests that have been like, oh well.
Well, if you think about it, though, commercially they only play certain ones,
Sure,
like a lot of that stuff that we're like now. I'll hear a Christmas tune on a movie or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, we played that in 17,
right?
Yeah, like that.
How about "I'll Be Home for Christmas"? One of the saddest Christmas songs ever. Written, I guess, during the war when the soldiers were overseas and couldn't get one of the. So sad. But I don't know if you've done Winter Wonderland lately, but I'm going to request that if you could put that.
I don't think we have ever done it.
The only time we did it is I played it behind the story.
Oh, that's right.
She did her story. I played Winter Wonderland, just piano.
Movie hero. Who do you think of when somebody says movie hero?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is John Wayne Pilgrim.
There you go.
I want to tell you. Yeah, of course, the epitome of a movie hero. Absolutely.
I was, what about movie villain?
Well, I think Boris Karloff probably would. I mean, he's a horror movie guy, but I was just watching the other night. I was watching this movie about the David Frost, Richard Nixon, the interviews. If you remember that, and I forget the actor's name, but he played Richard Nixon as a villain, really. Whatever you think of him, but he was pretty tough.
That was Frost Nixon was the name of that, right? That movie.
Frost Nixon, yeah. It's a good movie, really well played. Yeah.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor, Lee?
Strawberry or a combination of chocolate cookie dough and cherry ice cream.
Oh,
if you can mix together.
That's
that would be my.
Guess what Sugar Queen Creamery has for Valentine's Day weekend?
What's that?
Red velvet cake. I don't know if you've been to Sugar Queen Creamery or not, Lee.
Yeah,
but you need to go. I swear.
Okay.
It's on Chapman Highway across the street from Kroger, right near on the same road where the post office is. You know.
Oh yeah, I know that place. Well,
it used to be a florist. It's right there on the hill, and it's just
all right. Well, we have Brewster's here, and across the street from City Hall here in Maryville, we have an ice cream shop, which is really cool too. Yeah,
I love Maryville. We used to live in Rockford, so I was out there for 60.
I'm back.
Yeah, well, we still have the house. We've talked about it.
Well, come on back. You come over to the house. We'll go over to. Well, we shouldn't plug things on the air, but yeah. I could start naming my favorite places. Yeah. All right.
Is there life on other planets?
That of course is it's like asking, is there a hereafter? I believe that there probably is all the millions of stars, but I think that life on other planets would not look anything like anything we could recognize. They wouldn't be the gray aliens with the big heads and the big eyes. They would be so different. They're probably in a different dimension that we wouldn't recognize and wouldn't be able to detect.
Certainly not going to be humanoid in nature. I mean, we're one of the few creatures on this planet that walks on two legs. Why do we think that?
Right.
It's just
exactly. So I don't know. I just hope they're, I hope they're kind.
Yeah,
me too. Are really technologically behind us, which I don't see as possible.
No.
They can travel here. Right. They can probably blow us up. Kind of what I'm thinking.
Is old music better?
Not necessarily. I mean, I people automatically think that I'm just into oldies or classic rock. But no, I think there's brilliant music out now. So I don't think one is better than the other. No.
Bigfoot?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Again, see, I would feel sorry for Bigfoot because Bigfoot is misunderstood. Bigfoot's out there by himself.
At the very least.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, people, Bigfoot, what kind of social life does Bigfoot have?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you can't get close. I mean, people want to catch you or worse. Yeah. I don't know.
Is karma really a bitch?
Karma really a bitch? Yes, I do. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think that you're, there's a saying that I like to repeat. Reputation is what men and women think of you, but character is what God and the angels know of you. And so I think that ultimately there is karma, and that is manifest in how you treat other people and the goodness that you strive for. Yeah.
Awesome.
Long answer.
No, that's a great answer.
The best answer we've had by far.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is the later Beatles better than the early Beatles?
Oh, this is the guy to tell us right here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think so, only because of the way their music progressed. I mean, and I was thinking about this the other day. How amazing that these four guys came up with these amazing melodies and, George Martin with the arrangements, but nevertheless, how they came up. And the early Beatles were pretty primitive, really, if you think about it. They did covers and they had great songs, original songs, but later Beatles for sure. Yeah.
Is vinyl really better?
That's a great question, too, because when people send me vinyl, it's great, but I'm happy with CDs. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they're more convenient, too, I think, and you don't have to worry about scratching them.
Cheaper. If you buy
for nostalgia's sake,
Yeah. Do blondes have more fun?
I wouldn't know. I never. How would I know? I don't know. One would hope. Hope. Yeah.
Okay. Magic, real or?
There have been some unexplained things by great magicians that can't be explained, but I think there's a trick behind it. So I'd say it's probably just skill and cleverness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we go to the moon, Lee?
Yeah, we did. I'm not a conspiracy guy. Yes, we absolutely did.
Is there an afterlife?
Wow. Well, now you're getting very heady. Yeah.
Well, it's my show.
I know. You can do that. I think that part of being a spiritual individual is knowing that you're never going to know everything. You get by on faith. I mean, I look at, well, I'm getting very philosophical, but I look at how things have turned out for me, and I believe that I've been blessed.
Sure.
And so we'd like to think so, but I don't think, and probably a lot of preachers and ministers will contradict me on this, but I don't think that we can know. We're not capable. We're so fallible. We're not capable of knowing. I do believe there's angels, though. I'll say that. I believe my parents, and people that have passed, that I think I do have angels looking after me. So, yeah. Okay.
Very good. That's all right. What about ghosts?
Okay. Ghosts. Yeah. I think that there are spirits, but again, it's kind of hard to describe what form they take. The TV show Ghosts, no, they're not like that.
Yeah.
No, that TV show, no. But there might be some spirits lingering somewhere. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought I saw or heard things, and who knows if I was in a dream state, but I think that's plausible.
Yeah.
I think that's an energy that doesn't die with the body. Yeah.
Do you have a ghost story? Did you ever feel like
the fact that when I was a kid and we were staying with my aunt and uncle, and I was up in a guest room or something, I thought I saw something, but it was very brief and very passing. So no, not really. I don't want to. I'd be too scared. I don't want to see a ghost. Yeah. I don't want an encounter. I'm too scared. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Trust me, you do not want that. I've seen it 2 times. I've had it twice.
Really?
Yeah. So my grand.
So you believe in ghosts?
Oh
then?
Yeah. It's like a lot of. We used to have a pastor years ago, and he used to say, "Nobody can talk you out of an experience. If you've had an experience, nobody's going to talk you out of it." It's like I never met my grandfather. He died a year before I was born, and I saw that son of a bitch get up and walk across the room. Saw it.
Wow.
So now being a technical guy and being a sound engineer and a mixer and all this stuff, I believe that all matter has memory. So I think that when certain things happen, like traumatic events, it impacts the matter, and those are flashbacks of actual events that we're seeing, which is kind of can be explained with physics. So I kind of believe that that's what it is, not necessarily active.
Wow, that's really neat. Oh, I just turned on the light. It's fascinating. Yeah. And again, I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I can't, but I can't dismiss it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like people that have seen UFOs. I mean, what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, when they're running around outside with a metal colander strapped to their head with aluminum foil, hey, who's to say?
Well, Mike, I do that on the that's but,
sorry,
it's just
Lee.
a fashion statement.
Sorry, Lee. I didn't mean to let that out.
That's all right. It'll get out soon.
And the last one for you here: are all men created equal?
Wow, these are really tough questions. I think essentially, I think it's what, I don't know, because certain people go in different directions,
Yeah.
you know? So
Sure.
it's how you define equal. I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah, regardless of race or religion or stature, yeah, in that sense, we should believe that. But in terms of what they do with their lives, I don't know. I mean, a very evil person is not the equal of a very decent, saintly person. They are not equal.
Right.
So,
no, that's good.
And so it has to do with the mindset. It's, and I guess if you were to think, certain people have certain talents that other people don't have, but hopefully everybody has talent in one area where somebody else is. So, that's a roundabout
that's
way
good.
of.
That's okay.
Answering.
Like I said, there's no right or wrong.
A lot of these questions we get yes or no.
Why can't these questions be multiple choice?
Yeah.
Multiple choice or true
we
false.
like elaborated answers for sure.
Well, I mean, some of these questions require a little bit of explanation.
Yeah.
As well, but those are all good questions. Very philosophical, very, very, really very philosophical.
Well, tell us what's going on. You'd mentioned something earlier about what's going on in Maryville right now with you and something you were wanting to talk about.
Well,
and I apologize, I can't remember.
Yeah, no, I mean, in April.
I can't remember. See, I'll mess it up.
Well, no, it's all right. The last Thursday in April, I'm going to revive my Songs and Stories series, which I was doing at the station for a while.
Okay.
And now I wanted to bring it to Maryville, and the Peaceful Side Brewery has agreed to let me put on the Songs and Stories there. So that's going to, hopefully that'll be a continuing series.
And what does that entail? What is that?
This is like, if you're familiar with the show, which is on television called In the Actor's Studio.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very brainy show. Yeah. This guy would interview actors about their careers. And
we talk about
we love it. Yeah.
He really? Passed away.
Thank you.
James Lipton,
did he? I was
right?
wondering that.
James Lipton passed away.
Oh, I was wondering that. I don't know.
I think you did.
But,
I think that's something you said.
I'm not sure. I may.
Oh,
have.
dear. Oh, dear.
I don't know.
Mike McGill, I hope you had.
Go ahead.
Well, so what we do is basically an artist, maybe sometimes a duo.
2020
doing acoustic songs. We start with 3 songs, and then we have conversation. And, I ask them about their career, but it's very lighthearted. I mean, and of course, I try to inject some humor in there, but it's casual. And so it's acoustic music interspersed with these conversations. And ultimately, we open it up to the audience and let them ask. And it's a good way to get insight into an artist's background.
Cool.
So, we're doing that at 7:00 at Peaceful Side Brewery. The last weekend, what's the last weekend in April? I don't know. I don't have the calendar in front of me. I should know that.
It is. I'll look it up for you.
Okay, I should.
And this is something you do live, right? You're not recording this.
Yeah, live. Absolutely.
Are they recording it or filming it, or is it just?
No, we're not. Maybe eventually we'll do that, but.
25th, 6th, and 7th is the last weekend in April.
Okay, so that's the date. And hopefully it'll become a monthly series. The first guy we have is a guy from that other place we don't mention. Name's Lance Cowan. He's a great guy. He's a publicist, and he's put out now 2 albums belatedly. He was always into the publicity, and now he's making his own music, and he's very talented, and it's great music. So he's going to be the first guest, and we're going to have to get Mike McGill on there.
I'd love to do it. That sounds like a ton of fun.
And we'd have fun. Okay.
I've got three albums worth of original stuff, so I'd love to come out and be a part of it.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll book it, Dana. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I'm hoping that it becomes a monthly thing. I'm hoping the first one's successful enough because I have somebody in mind for the second. But beyond that, I'm hoping it goes. But they're good at promotion, and that's really important.
Right.
Promote this thing.
Well, Lee, we've had a wonderful time, and we're so thankful. I'm certainly thankful more than anything is just the years of friendship and your kindness and your willingness to no, hush now, I'm gonna brag on you a minute. Your willingness to help out wherever you can with getting promotion out for us and covering the Christmas Spectacular for so many years, and being a good guy and a music lover and someone that's again always positive and is very kind. We're glad to have you here, and we're glad to have you as a good guy.
Yep.
Well, it's really, and I say this with all sincerity, it's an honor. It's an honor to be on the podcast, but it's an honor to know you guys because good, gracious people, kind people are at a premium in this world. And people that are that way from the heart are a gift. I don't know how else to say it. I'm just thankful.
Well,
that's why we did this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's named Good Guy,
Well, one more for the good guys. It's
live up to your handle.
Yeah. Well, I always said it jokingly for years, not really jokingly, but there's a lot of times I'll give out a toast, and I'll make up something or I'll repeat something I've heard that's funny or maybe that's shock worthy enough in the right room, but one more for the good guys I'd always do that, here's one more for the good guys, when we would finish something or have a good night. And we got to talking about it. And, every time we get together, we'd just talk about all kinds of different random things. And then we'd pull up, different things about books or movies or Milky Ways or Three Musketeer candy bars or whatever the heck, and then, and we had so many, we had talked about doing a podcast forever. And then finally, instead of trying to figure it out, we just thought, as long as it's fun, let's just do it. And then it'll kind of tell us where it wants to go. And so we just got busy doing it and, we're still having fun with it and certainly growing, and it's good. But again, I want to say a big thank you to our guest, Lee Zimmerman. If you don't know, or if you haven't been listening, or if you've been fast forwarding and not paying attention,
cheating. Yeah.
Pull his stuff back up here. You can check his book out, American Music. Americana Music, pardon me. Americana Music, Voices, Visionaries, and Pioneers of an Honest Sound, as well as 30 Years Behind the Glass, from Otis Redding and Stax Records to Santana's Supernatural. You can check out those books. You can also go to the Library of Congress website and see the video or see the
I think it's audio.
It's audio.
It's audio. But actually I think it's print.
Okay. Well, you can go to the Library of Congress website and find Lee Zimmerman's interview about the book Americana Music. You can also check out the Peaceful Side Brewery on the last weekend of April and go up for
Thursday. That's Thursday.
On Thursday, the last weekend of April.
It's the last Thursday.
Okay, the last Thursday.
Yeah, we don't want to compete with all the stuff that's going on.
Gotcha.
Last Thursday.
The last Thursday in April for the Peaceful Side of the Brewery, and listen to who'd you say the guest was going to be this time around?
A fellow named Lance Cowan.
Cowan.
You can go to his website. He's brilliant. He's got 2 albums. He's brilliant. With a lot of famous people on the albums, too.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Lee, we close out each show with saying this, and I don't think this week should be any different. Folks, be kind to one another. It doesn't cost a dime to be kind, but there's always a price to be paid for cruelty. So you heard it here first. Lee, we love you. We thank you again, and cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
One more for the good